Civilization VII tells you there's a hard settlement limit. There isn't. This empire has more than double the supposed limit, and it's completely stable. In this video, I'll show you how to expand almost infinitely with any leader and any civilization without your empire collapsing. And if you do this correctly, you don't just expand more, you accelerate your win condition, any victory type, by an absurd amount. This strategy works in the current version of the game. The developers are planning balance changes in a future update, but until then, this is the most powerful way to expand. I'll make an updated guide when the patch releases, but in the meantime, this is truly a broken strategy. The key is understanding one key concept, which is that the penalty actually caps. No matter how many settlements you settle, the happiness penalty never goes beyond 35. So if you can consistently generate more than 35 happiness per settlement, the limit effectively disappears. Let me show you exactly how to set this up, starting from the first turn of exploration. I have chosen the civilization Bulgaria precisely because they don't really have any ability that helps you go over the settlement limit infinitely, so just to show you that you can do this with any civ. They have a lot of abilities of conquering, but I'm not going to be doing any conquering, so basically it's as if I had a blank civ and I'm going to be doing this so that you can do it with any civilization and any leader. The first very important thing is the Expansionist Attribute tree. In Antiquity we managed to get until here, but the normal is getting until here. We are gonna choose in our Legacies 2 Expansionist points, because we want to get especially to this attribute card here, because we're gonna get 15% yields in all specialized towns and 30% in distant lands, and this is gonna help us massively, and you're gonna be seeing the extent in which this is actually insane. And on top of that, on the way there, we get this extra 1 population in all of our towns that will grant us a lot of happiness when we expand and create new towns. We will get 2 free populations basically, so we can already expand to 2 happiness tiles, bringing us to a total for the moment of extra 3 to 4 happiness. So in the Legacies, I'm gonna choose 2 attribute points, and then the other one, I could choose actually this, but I really want, to be honest, the gold, and I could also go for this, but for the moment I think I'm not really gonna be using the other point, so maybe a militaristic point. We're gonna also grab a diplomatic point, because as you can see here, in the attribute tree, there's the node that we really want to get, which is this one, and also this one. So as in Antiquity I managed to get already these 2, to be honest I only need 1 of these points, so I'm gonna take a cultural one for the other attribute. So we're gonna take 1 diplomatic point and 1 cultural point. The other one other cultural point. In terms of the economics, I'm gonna take 2 economic points. I would like to get to here, to 15% towards purchasing, as for the moment in Antiquity we didn't get, unfortunately, any economic points, so we will only be able to get until here, but I will be looking forward during the age to get 1 economic point and put it here. Here is the matter of our choice. I think I will take the golden age of the libraries because I do not have anything better to do, and I will use my wildcard in the second scientific attribute point because there's nothing else really here that screams to me that I need it. It is important to change your capital so that you can preserve 2 cities at the very start of the age already. So Copan will be my newest capital, and unfortunately I do not have anything to do with my extra economic point, but it is better like this. We're gonna put all the attribute points that we got. Now, with this attribute point of the happiness, we will get extra 2 happiness on every settlement, so our counter of happiness accumulated in every settlement will increase to already 5 to 6. As you can see, we're getting a free population to all of our towns, and we will prioritize happiness tiles. So for example, in here, this will be a town, so I will prioritize the tiles that have happiness. I recommend initially getting 3 to 4 cities, so if you had more gold, I would already recommend getting 4, but now I got already 3, and we are gonna need this gold actually, so we're gonna wait a little bit on the 4th city, that's gonna be this one. What we're gonna do is buy some cogs in our sea town, so that we can explore a little bit faster. And I also like to buy immediately the stone cutter, so that we can get a boost of early production straight away. Now, if I had more gold, I would buy the stonecutter also in my other 2 cities, but as we had to transition from Antiquity with only 2,000 gold instead of 3,000, I am a little bit short on gold. So for the moment, we're only gonna buy this, and in our cities, we're gonna immediately produce 2 settlers, as you can see, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. Now, here we come to the big question. How do we get 35 happiness in all of our settlements? The answer is through a combination of multiple bonuses, so even if they seem small at first, they end up amounting to a lot. So all of them are important. We already talked about some of them, and we have a base happiness of 5 to 6 happiness in all settlements. If you are settling on fresh water, that will be an extra 5. But we will do it also without fresh water. That would bring us with fresh water to 10 to 11 happiness. Here is where it is useful to grab as many gold resources as you can in Antiquity. We only managed to get 3 here because we weren't really focusing on that during Antiquity, but this is something, an extra consideration that you can have during Antiquity to search for as many golds as you can. But it is okay, you can also do it if you only have 3 or 2 even. What you can also do is buy, maybe next turn when I have the gold, buy a merchant or 2, trade with some of the other civilizations to grab some extra gold that there might be. Let's say that you manage to get a baseline of, normally with some merchants, of 5 gold. So that would be extra 5 happiness in all settlements. That would bring us to a total of 15 to 16 happiness. Now, inside exploration, there's a resource that is also very important, kind of like gold, which is chocolate, because here it gives +1 happiness in towns, doubled in distant lands. And as you can see, one has spawned just by itself in my empire. A lot of the times this happens, so maybe it is normal to start with 1, so that would be an extra 1. Later we can count this as being distant lands, so let's say that we are between 15 to 17 happiness, maybe 1 more if we are in distant lands. So it's not bad, we haven't done yet anything in exploration, and we are already counting on a base of 15 to 17 happiness. The reason why it is important to grab this one, this attribute economic point, is because we're gonna be buying temples in all of our towns when we settle them, and now in all of our towns from Antiquity. So as you can see, the temple has base 6 happiness, maybe 1 more if it is adjacent to a mountain. So that would bring us around 6-7 extra happiness, bringing us to a total of 21 to 24 happiness. But to buy all these temples, it is important to have a lot of gold, and that's why getting a discount when you purchase buildings is actually massive. With this base 21 to 24 happiness, we are already in a very, very good position when we buy all these temples, because that would leave us with around -14 to -11 happiness, and that means -28% to -22% to all guilds in our settlements, which we will improve, don't worry, but it is already a good start. The most important thing is not having unhappy cities, because if you have unhappy cities, you're gonna have less production, less science, less culture, and all this stuff, and you don't want that. But having unhappy towns is not that bad. You can have some unhappy towns while they grow a little bit and you grab a little bit more happiness tiles. Plus, with cities, you have other buildings. You can have happiness buildings from other ages, but also happiness buildings from this age, maybe some unique quarter. Cities can have some other ways of getting happiness, while towns, it is a little bit harder. Now to our next point, which is specializing towns. For example, here we have a town that we can specialize, and with the mod City Hall, we can see and we can prioritize the one that gives us more yields. I would say if we are already happy in our town, keep in mind that now we are over 4 and the maximum is over 7, so we still have an extra 15 happiness penalty to suffer from here. So these settlements, our settlements that we have now, we have to get them to +15 happiness and we will be fine. So if we grab Resort Town, we will be getting extra 8 happiness, so that would bring us an extra 8 gold, and there's no other bonuses really that gives me that much extra gold, so I'm gonna grab Resort Town, and you're gonna see that my town is gonna be happy. And as you can see, it even bumped us to 11 and we don't even have the temple here. That's because the attribute point of getting 50% extra yields in all of our settlements is also boosting our happiness. So this town, actually, we could settle infinitely and we would only have a penalty of -4, which is awesome, and we don't even have the temple here, which is insane because we're already over 4, so we are already suffering -20 happiness. We're gonna do this with every town, and as you can see, we're already getting towns that are very, very healthy. For example, this town is already on the point that it's already good and we can settle infinitely, and this town will never be unhappy. With all these town specializations, so normally Resort Town is the one that is more worth it, you can already get also a very, very nice gold income because you're boosting the income of all these towns by 15% and you're specializing in something that is giving you gold, so you are increasing your gold by a lot. We already have 300 base gold per turn, which is not bad, but we're gonna get much, much more. I would recommend the settlements that you settled the last turns of the antiquity age to leave them growing so that they can grab the happiness tiles and get to the specialization point. So for example, this one is still growing, and maybe we can, even though this one we can specialize, we can leave this growing because it still has some tiles to grab that have happiness in them. So maybe we can leave it growing for a little bit. So as you saw, all these antiquity towns, some of them already have absolutely zero problem with no temple, and we already can settle infinitely, and some of them maybe we will need to purchase, for example, no, this one doesn't have any problem, but some of them maybe we will need to purchase a temple or something like this, and then we will be fine. So we won't have to worry about our antiquity towns, neither of our cities, because we have other ways of getting happiness in the cities. So we are only gonna be having to focus on the new towns that we settle in exploration, so the new distant lands towns for the most part. If this breakdown is helping you, consider subscribing. I'm building complete structure guides for every age in Civilization VII, so you can consistently win, not just survive. Antiquity is already covered, exploration is now, and modern is coming soon. As I already said, with all this specialization, we are boosting our gold income by a lot. Our goal would be to get at least 1,000 gold per turn, because that way we can already almost purchase a temple per turn, and that would be the main idea. But we can never have enough gold, so the more gold income that you have, the better. If you have a leader or civilization that is allowing to get massive gold income boost, that's gonna be a very good thing. But if you don't worry, because we are still gonna get there. The initial turns are the most tricky, because you have to balance the getting some new cities, because now we only have 3 and I would like to have 4. Also getting the stone cutters in those cities to boost the production, getting settlers, and then settling and having to save the gold to buy the temples, while not settling too fast, because maybe at the beginning we don't have enough gold to buy 1 temple per turn. So the initial turns are gonna be the most tricky, and I'm gonna walk you through it step by step. Some of the other bonuses that will help and we're gonna be looking forward to are, we can grab in terms of city-states, we could grab a diplomatic one, and normally diplomatic ones can get us +1 happiness to warehouse buildings, or +2 happiness on happiness buildings like the temple that we're gonna be buying in all of our towns. Unfortunately, now no diplomatic city-state has spawned, but we're gonna be taking 1 scientific one, because that is gonna be important for later. And expansionist city-states are always good, so also if you can, just take 1. We're gonna get piety first, and we're gonna get, of course, cartography first to be able to explore the distant lands immediately. In terms of the government, actually plutocracy will help us a lot, because it will give us extra gold, and this is what we want, so probably we're gonna take that. But taking the extra food would also be nice, because that means that your towns grow more and you can grow more to your happiness tiles. So for the moment, I think I will be doing this, but just so that you know that also getting extra food is really nice. Now, early on in exploration, a tip that I recommend getting is not thinking so much of the main text, but thinking more of the masteries, because these masteries are really good, because they boost your food here. For example, this one is also really nice. It gives you tons of food. So initially you might be lacking a little bit on food on production in your cities, but these masteries will help you a lot. For example, here we have +1 production on clay pits and mines, which will be really nice. So even it would be worth it to first prioritize these masteries before getting other stuff. One thing I want to say, one warning, is even though Rila Monastery in a normal situation would be actually really nice, we don't want to get Rila Monastery. Because the thing is that we're going to be buying so many temples, we're going to be having so many spots for our relics, and we're already going to be clearing the military legacy path very fast. So if we have so many slots for relics and we're getting a lot of relics from the wonders, we're going to be clearing also the cultural path very fast. And that is a problem, because that means that the age is going to be significantly shorter. So we want to save and get our relics at the end of the age, not during the age. So Rila Monastery is something that might end up hurting us in the long run. So now we have the option, do we want to go first for this and then this mastery, or for this? As I'm building settlers in my cities, I'm not gonna be building this, as I am short on gold, I am not gonna be able to buy the sawmill immediately, so probably first this bonus is gonna affect me straight away. In terms of the civic tree, to be honest, there are not many things in the exploration civic tree, unfortunately, that are screaming to me that are very important. If you have some specific thing in your unique civic tree, then get it, but maybe for now, to be honest, I don't see any kind of really important happiness or gold boost. Maybe I'm gonna try to get the Grand Bazaar, but we'll see, because the AI tends to rush it a lot. So we're gonna start sending our settlers straight for the distant lands. And we already discovered some distant lands here. I'm first saving my gold to turn my fourth city because I think that's going to be the most important one, especially because I have the Maya quarter, and the Maya quarter will activate when I have cities. Finally got enough gold to convert our fourth city, and we can immediately start working on settlers also. So we can already buy the stone cutters and stuff. We're going to place it together with a warehouse building. And finally, we can already combine maybe with another production warehouse buildings and more settlers. We're going to be doing a lot of settlers this game. That's why also I am running this. You're not forced to run this, but it's Simon's Bolivar memento to get plus 50% gold towards purchasing units during a celebration. So that will help us, especially late game, because we will be buying settlers from our distant land towns, and they will be much cheaper because as we're going to get a lot of settlers, they're going to get pretty expensive. So getting such a massive discount will be really useful. But you don't need this. You can just produce a lot of settlers with your cities and then just send them across the distant lands. And we found a diplomatic city-state, which will be very important. As you can see, we found some chocolate, so we're gonna prioritize this. So we want to settle and send these settlers across this as fast as we can. Once you get already your 4 cities for the moment, and then you have already bought, for example, the stone cutters in them, while you don't have to buy yet some temples, for example, you can already just start to optimize your already existing towns that have a lot of mines and stuff like this, and buy some brickyards or sawpits to increase your gold income. So here we have our first distant lands town. As you can see here, our town is pretty unhappy, but not so much because we are getting a minus 25 happiness penalty, and right now we, from all the other bonuses that we mentioned, we only get minus 13. We can expand immediately, and we're gonna prioritize the happiness tiles. So for example, this one, and also we get the silver, which is gonna be really nice. So we are only at minus 11 happiness. We're gonna buy the temple when we can, but we are saving on the gold. As you can see, our gold income right now is already 420, which is not bad at all, but we want to improve it much more. You can use your commanders to teleport your settlers, so that's why it's good in Antiquity to take the commander promotion that gives you extra mobility and ignore terrain restrictions. Here with the scientific city-state, it's gonna be very important to grab the monastery, but not so much for ignoring settlement limit, but something that we'll be explaining later. And we can start buying temples to our distant land towns that will grant us a massive happiness boost. We already have an income of 600 gold, which is not bad. We are only at turn 19. And we, after buying some warehouse buildings, we even build a wonder and stuff. We can build some temples in our cities so that when we go infinitely over the settlement limit, we will not have any effect on our cities. A wonder that I really like getting is this one because it grants us 1 wildcard attribute point, so we are going to be able to put it to where we are lacking. For example, in our economic attribute tree to get the 15% towards purchasing. We get another distant land settlement that we can immediately prioritize the very high happiness tiles, and we can immediately buy a temple in it so that our happiness is only a minus 4. Keep in mind now we are at plus 5 over the settlement limit, so we still have to suffer another extra 10 happiness. Our third distant land settlement is here, and we can grab the chocolate and another happiness tile. This brings our total happiness counter to 23 to 25, let's say. And here we managed to get some more gold, so that is increasing already our gold to being 6 gold, so 1 more than we calculated. So that brings our happiness counter to around 24 or 25 happiness. We have unlocked shipbuilding, so we will be able to cross our settlers much faster, so we can already start crossing. We can colonize already this chocolate that will be really nice to get. Let's grab the chocolate and the high happiness tile first. And here we have these bonuses, so we can either get +1 happiness on warehouse buildings or +2 happiness on happiness buildings. Probably this one will end up being better, so I'm gonna take this one. So that is gonna be increasing on an average our happiness by, let's say, around 2. And here we can grab this ability, which is gonna get us an extra happiness. So we're already increasing by 3 our happiness. We got an extra chocolate, so that would be an extra 2, so that would be an extra 5. As you can see, we have already reached the point where we are 7 over the settlement limit, and that is the maximum penalty that we're gonna be taking. So from here on, if we can manage to surpass the happiness penalty that we have right now, we won't have any problems anymore and we can settle infinitely. Let's see how happy are our settlements. So our cities are fine, so we don't have to worry about them. We have some unhappy settlements here with -8, -6, -4. All these -6, -4, it's manageable because we will be getting some small extra bonuses and we will be fine. As you can see, we have a lot of happy towns here. So the most critical one maybe it's this one, plus 15. But the thing is that this one doesn't have the temple built. So we can buy the temple and this will just increase. So as you can see, it is very, very manageable to go over the settlement limit. And I really want to show you the result that you can get with this. As you can see, we just settled a new town. It's our town number 20. And to calculate the base exactly that we have in all settlements in distant lands, we have a minus 35 penalty. And right now it is only minus 12. So right now our exact counter is 23, but we can buy the temple and that will increase us by at least normally 6 or 7, but right now it's 8 because we have the +1 on happiness buildings. So we buy the temple, and as you can see, our base bonus is already 31 happiness per settlement. This is actually almost enough to just go over infinitely. And to be honest, I tell you more, we can do even one more thing. We can buy a fishing key and an extra happiness. So we have a total of 32 bonus. And by buying a few more extra warehouse buildings and growing 2 more tiles, it's already gonna be done. And grabbing an extra chocolate already brings us to a total of 35. So that is already the capability unlocked to settle infinitely over the settlement limit. Now let's see how we end up doing and how we manage to increase our goal to our maximum to get the maximum number of settlements that we can in the same age. And what exploits can we use with this to get the maximum number of yields and to improve by an absurd amount our chance of victory in the modern age. And we managed to build this wonder, which grant us finally the attribute point of the economic to 50% towards purchasing in all settlements. Now our temples and our buildings are much cheaper to achieve. Once we already see that we already have 1,000 gold per turn, all of our settlements are happy or at -4 or 5 maximum. Basically at this point we're already at 24 settlements, so we are 14 over the settlement limit. We can already start using the memento that we're using. So in a celebration we can buy settlers and they are much cheaper. So we can already buy settlers in our distant land towns, so we are much closer to the points that we want to settle. Something I recommend is not using your treasure fleet, so just leaving them parked here so that they don't bother you, and then the last turns we will do all the treasure fleets. That way we have more turns to settle more and get more yields. And once we are already settling infinitely, one of the exploits that we can do is actually monastery spams. So with the monastery, if we have grabbed before the monastery boost of the scientific city-state, we can buy here monasteries, and each monastery is gonna be for science. Now monasteries cannot be adjacent to a building, so an urban tile. So basically here we cannot build monasteries, but here we can. So as you can see here, we can buy a monastery. Now one thing that you can do is, as you can see, if I buy a granary, for example here I cannot put a monastery, so I could buy a building. But if I buy a granary here, I am blocking myself from being able to buy a monastery here. So what you can do is first get the monastery outside here, then you can buy a granary to be able to grow more. Grab a granary, then you can grow to another tile. For example, in this case we will grow to a tile where we can put a monastery like this one, and then we can buy more monasteries, as you can see here. And by buying monasteries every time that you can and have the goal to do, you're increasing your science by a lot. Now, I do recommend at this point, when you're doing monastery spams, some of these towns that before the first turn of the game you have specialized them, I suggest slowly by slowly just putting them to grow again so that you can squeeze a little bit more tiles for monasteries. So it just comes a point where you can just buy all of the monasteries that you want. For example, here, and we can just do this with all of our towns, and you will see the glow that our yields get. It just comes to a point, to be honest, to a certain moment where you feel like if you want to be really optimal, you have to spend a lot of time playing and optimizing every little thing. So there comes a point where you're just like playing, placing buildings, buying monasteries and stuff, and just getting insane yields slowly, turn by turn. But let's see where do our yields get with all of our monasteries. So here we are at the end of exploration, and as you can see, this is the exploit that I'm talking about. Like, look at our science and our culture. We have 2,400 science and 1,700 culture. As you can see, These are really high numbers, and the funny thing is that actually I have not been playing the most optimal this game because I just wanted to show the monastery exploit and going over the settlement limit. First of all, I wasn't playing good leader in terms of Sim City and building up a huge empire without going to war and stuff, and I wasn't using a Civ either that was focused on that. So neither of the bonuses, Civ or leader, was really helping me in that regard. But apart from that, I haven't been playing in this game at the maximum optimal that I could see, because I was just doing this game to show that you can do these exploits. I'm gonna show you now a game where I was playing like fully optimally, trying to get as many yields as I could, and you're gonna see like the huge numbers, but these numbers are already huge. I think that this is the end of exploration, and just take a look at that. If you take a look, I don't know if you know, but here you can take a look at ageless. Take a look at how many monasteries do we have. We have, let's take a look, 164 monasteries. Like, this is insane, and I wasn't really playing in the full optimal way. So imagine, like, normally you can get around 180, maybe 200 monasteries. Like, just imagine, I don't know, Xerxes the Achaemenid with this. Like, he would get, if you're using his memento, for example, that he gets +1 culture and gold on all unique improvements. So he would be getting 3 culture and 3 gold and 4 science for each monastery. That would be like, from the monasteries, you would be getting like 600 culture and 600 gold and 800 science. And then when you specialize the town, take a look at that. All these yields would be multiplied by the attribute point that grants 50% yields and 30% yields if they are in distant lands. Just like, take a look at that. We have 42 settlements, 42, and take a look at our happiness. This is ordered by the highest happiness to the lowest. Look, the lowest town that we have with happiness is 5 happiness. And we are like way over the settlement limit, like 27 over the settlement limit. Like, this is insane. On top of that, if I was playing a leader that maybe had a little bit more tempo, maybe I could have rushed a little bit more the distant lands, and I would have had a little bit more space, because right now I didn't have more space to settle more. So we stopped at 42 settlements, but you can definitely do games where you settle more. As you can see, if I open the settler lands, all the map is basically taken, pretty much, except for some territory of the AI. But look, like, everything is taken. One bonus from the Monastery Spam is that actually monasteries get 3 happiness if the settlement follows your religion. So you can convert all of your settlements to your religion, I would say the last 10 turns of the game. As you can see, I have an income of 4,000 gold per turn, which is insane. So in 10 turns you can buy all the missionaries that you want, convert in the last 10 turns, don't worry before, and then you can just get all this happiness from all these monasteries that will be carried into the modern age. So you won't even have to worry a little bit in the modern age from the happiness. So it is truly insane, and you can do this, as you saw, every game. You just follow this strategy, and you can do this every game with any leader, any civilization, whatever combination you want, whatever victory type you want. Here we can see another game that I was playing. This is one of the games that I did optimize fully to the best of my capabilities, and as you can see, I have 8,400 science and 3,300 culture, given that we are playing the Abbasids, which is much better in terms of city building than Bulgaria that we were using before, and we are using Himiko, so her ability to multiply the science is obviously helping us. So, but as you can see, we are also at 42 settlements. This is just a coincidence, but yeah, as you can see, once you have like 4,000 gold and more than 2,000 science and culture, like, you can do pretty much whatever you want, so you can get any victory that you want. If you want to learn how to set up the perfect antiquity age to help you get to this point more easily, check out my guides on how to master the first 50 turns of antiquity. Thanks a lot for watching until the end, and I will be seeing you in the next one.